Enigmas have now been explained by science. What the dark side of the moon looks like was once. So what's that? Shrouded in mystery. It is not the kind of thing that could be solved by discussion. It was left to the imagination of the individual. But today we know exactly what the dark side of the moon looks like. And no one can believe any longer in the moon, or that the moon is made of green cheese. A Greek philosopher who lived more than 2,000 years ago believed that philosophy had its origin in man's sense of wonder. Man thought it was so astonishing to be alive that philosophical questions arose of their own accord. It is like watching a magic trick. We cannot understand how it is done. So we ask, how can the magician change a couple of wild silk scarves into a live rabbit? A lot of people experience the world with the same incredulity as when a magician suddenly pulls a rabbit out of a hat which has just been shown to them empty. In the case of the rabbit, we know the magician has tricked us. What we would like to know is just how we did it. But when it comes to the world, it's somewhat different. We know that the world is not all sleight of hand and deception, because here we are in it. We are part of it. Actually, we are the white rabbit being pulled out of the hat. The only difference between us and the white rabbit is that the rabbit does not realize it is taking part of a magic trick. Unlike us, we feel we are part of something mysterious, and we would like to know how it all works.
Okay.
Sir, sometimes we don't understand some words. We should ask.
You can ask. Yes.
There is a word.
Sleight of hand.
Enigmas.
Enigmas, mystery.
And shrouded. Shrouded.
Shrouded means covered.
Shrouded.
Covered in mystery. Okay. Okay. So this is the part that is important. A Greek philosopher who lived more than 2,000 years ago believed that philosophy had its origin in man's sense of wonder. Man thought it was so astonishing to be alive that philosophical questions arose of their own.
She compares like a magician, what he does in his magic.
No.
We are compared to the rabbit.
And we
Magician
are
is
the
the
bugs,
creator or
which
the
are trying to.
mystery.
We are actually compared, like philosophers are actually being compared to bugs who are trying to go to the end of the, what's it called?
Far.
Okay, so meaning that they want to exceed or they want to find out more about the world. But we are being compared to.
Did we reach that part?
All right, you told us to read up to page 35. So
No, I understand. That's okay.
I don't know where we.
You're not spoiling the thing.
Okay.
No. That's okay. But we can still use the current example. So, if you want to discuss the bunny part, that is, the bunny is the magician is being compared with, let's say, the creator or God.
Right.
The God is performing a trick. Let's say, like man, God is performing a trick where he pulls a bunny out of a top hat.
Yes.
Now, the difference between a magician and God is that a magician is doing what we call velgibazi,
Deception.
deception. But that is not the same thing with God, because we are real creations.
Actually creates.
Yeah, so that is the difference that he says that between a magician and the creator. Okay, let's continue.
Should I start? Yes, please.
Oh, sorry, not this one. So page 16.
Page 16.
We require to be good philosophers is the faculty of wonder. The only thing we require to be good philosophers is the faculty of wonder. That bold portion, uppercase, writing. One page later. A strange creature. Did you
Yes,
find it?
sir. Strange
Yes.
creature. Okay.
Yes. The only thing we require to be good philosophers is faculty of wonder. Babies at this level.
That's right.
Babies have this faculty.
Look at the fourth one.
16.
Page number 16. Pin number para.
Okay.
Sir?
Read it.
Wait.
Yes, start reading.
Babies have this faculty that is not surprising. After a few short months in the womb, they slip out into a brand new reality. But as they grow up, the faculty of wonder seems to diminish. What is this? Do you know? If a newborn baby could talk, it would probably say something about what an extraordinary world it had come into. We see how it looks around and reaches out in curiosity to everything it sees. As words are gradually acquired, the child looks up and says, "Oh, oh, oh." Every time it sees a dog, it jumps up and down. It is jump up and down in its stroller, waving its arms. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh. We who are older and wisher may feel somewhat exhausted by the child's enthusiasm. All right, all right. It's a bow. We say, what's its pronunciation, sir? Bow or bow?
Bow, wow.
Bow
Down.
Okay. We say unimpressed. Please sit still. We are not
Enthralled.
enthralled. We have seen a dog before.
Enthralled means excited, in case you didn't know.
Yes.
This rapturous performance may repeat itself hundreds of times before the child learns to pass a dog without going crazy, or an elephant, or an hippopotamus. But long before the child learns to talk properly, and long before it learns to think philosophically, the word will have become a habit. A pity, if you ask me. My concern is that you do not grow up to be one of those people who take the world for granted. Sophie dear. So just to make sure we are going to do a couple of experiments in thought before we begin on the course itself. Imagine that one day you are out for a walk in the woods. Suddenly, you see a small spaceship on a path in front of you. A tiny Martian climbs out of the spaceship and stands on the ground looking up at you. What would you think? Never mind. It's not important. But have you ever given any thought of the fact that you are a Martian yourself? It is obviously unlikely that you will ever stumble upon a creature from another planet. We do not even know that there is life on the other planets, but you might stumble upon yourself one day. You might suddenly stop short and see yourself in a completely new light, on just a such walk in the woods.
Okay, stop. This is an interesting idea. You know that we might be Martians from space.
Yeah.
You know who landed on Earth?
Yeah, we came from
But sir, if we are from the different planet, we should connection from them. But
We should have.
we should have connection with them, but we have no connection.
Maybe the planet got destroyed.
By the enemy. Aliens.
Maybe we destroyed the planet's ecosystem. Right?
Probably.
Obviously.
Honestly.
So there's a religion based on this idea that we are actually we came from the space on a spaceship. We used to be on a different planet. There's a religion. I think it's called what is it called? Scientology?
There's a religion based on science?
No. It's
No,
like
they claim that it is science. It's a cult.
they claim that it's true. They claim
Their
that it's
holy book is just a science guidebook or something.
Where is that spaceship
Perhaps
came
it was
in?
Superman.
It's a very good question.
It ran out of battery. It ran out of gas.
Yeah, but where is that?
Parked in the
Yeah,
space
I
for
mean,
too long.
it's all Superman story.
So if we come from the other planet, we should have more civilized before from the beginning. But we are now
We
No, no.
this
forgot.
stage.
Something happened to our brain while traveling
Ah.
through.
But just because you have understanding and knowledge doesn't mean you have the technology. Technology needs a lot of things.
How
We need
about
technology.
space-time singularity?
Explain space and singularity. I have no clue what that is.
I can explain it.
Why do you talk about things you cannot explain? Please don't do that.
I can speak in I can explain it in English, but
You said an in English term, space time singularity. This is not a Bangla term. Tell me what space time singularity is in Bangla.
the matter
No. Tell me in Bangla. What is space time singularity in Bangla?
আর হচ্ছে স্থান এই দুটো যখন একটা সিঙ্গেল পয়েন্ট
No. What is the term called in Bangla? What is the term space time singularity called in Bangla?
So we don't
This is a problem. This is a big problem. Don't just transfer idea from one place to another.
বিকজ আমরা ওই দিকেই যাচ্ছি যে এন্টার কোথায় তো এন্টার পর্যন্ত এখন পর্যন্ত যেটা জানা গেছে যে পর্যন্ত আইডিয়া আছে আমাদের ফিলোসফিক্যাল থটস আছে ওই পর্যন্তই না গেলাম মানে যে পর্যন্ত আছে আমরা যেতে পারি তো আমি জাস্ট একটু আগে দিলাম
Yes,
How?
interstellar.
এরপরে তো আর আসলে আইডিয়াটা আমার জানা মতে এরপরে আর কিছু নাই এরপরে
Omega point.
কোনোভাবে
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Omega point is a belief that we think of that the end of time. There after that it's also a cult belief. It's a science fiction thing. That Omega point is the last stage of time. Beyond that there is no limit of time. Time is irrelevant after that.
Okay. I understand, but how is this relevant to what we're discussing?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. So we are going to read this all the book.
Yes, I'm sorry. I will continue. I'm an extraordinary being.
I am an extraordinary being to think. I am a mysterious creature. You feel as if you are walking from an enchanted slumber. Who am I? You ask. You know that you are stumbling around on a planet in the universe. But what is the universe? If you discover yourself in this manner, you will have discovered something as mysterious as the Martian we just mentioned. You will not only have seen a being from outer space, you will feel deep down that you are yourself an extraordinary being. Do you follow me, Sophie? Let's do another experiment in thought. One morning, Mom, Dad, a little Thomas, aged 2 or 3, are having breakfast in the kitchen. After a while, Mom gets up and goes over to kitchen sink. And Dad flies up and floats around under the ceiling while Thomas sits watching. What do you think? Thomas says. Perhaps he points up at his father and says, Dad is flying. Thomas will certainly be astonished. But then he very often is. Dad does so many strange things that this business of a little flight over the breakfast table makes no difference to him. Every day Dad shapes with a funny machine. Sometimes he climbs onto the roof and turns the TV aerial, or else he sticks his head under the hood of the car and comes up back in the face. Now it's Mom's turn. She hears what Thomas says and turns around abruptly. How do you think she reacts to sight of Dad's floating nonchalantly over the kitchen table?
So nonchalantly means
Without care.
abruptly, so abruptly,
Suddenly.
suddenly.
Okay. She drops a jam jar on the floor and screams with fright. She may even need medical attention once Dad has returned respectably to his chair. He should have learned better table manners by now. Why do you think Thomas and his mother react so differently? It all has to do with habit. Note this. Mom has learned that people cannot fly. Thomas has not. He still isn't certain about what you can and cannot do in this world.
Okay, okay. Stop. So what's going on here?
They are suddenly flying.
So with reaction, when you see something different.
Is there any rules like what people should do and what shouldn't do? Is this?
I just asked you guys what's happening in this book.
So this is happening here, like Thomas is a
child
child
is
who
full
doesn't
of
know
wonders,
of the world.
and the mom is not a wanderer because she knows the ways of the art, physics, and etc. So while watching her husband flying, it's not normal for her because she knows it's not possible in compared to the world of the rules of our world. But the child doesn't know it yet, so he finds it funny and he wonders how is Dad doing it. He got excited.
Summarizes, sir. Two people may have different reactions to something very absurd. A person who is habituated with the world, such as the mother over here, whenever she sees her husband floating in the ceiling, she's going to be paranoid. She's going to find it absolutely odd. But the baby or the kid may find it very amusing because he's still wondering. The faculty of wonder still applies to him, whereas to the mother it's abnormal.
Okay, very good. So basically, the idea that the author is trying to present here is you need to be the baby, to be the philosopher.
That was the analogy here.
To see the world as if everything is a miracle. Kind of. Alright? That is sort of the idea that is trying to be that is being presented here.
It's the but what about the word sentence?
Which word? But what about the world itself, Sophie? Do you think it can do what it does? The world is also floating in space. Do you think it can do what it does? The world is also yes. What about the question?
She was pointing out, I believe, that we should be reading from this point on.
Yeah? Continue, alright, no problem, continue.
But what about the world itself, Sophie? Do you think it can do what it does? The world is also floating in space. Sadly, it is not only the force of gravity we get used to as we grow up. The world itself becomes a habit in no time at all. It seems as if in the process of growing up.
Oops. This is annoying. Anyways, continue, please, don't worry about this.
Okay. Growing up, we lost ability to wonder about the world. And in doing so, we lost something centrally, something philosophers try to restore. For somewhere inside ourselves, something tells us that life is a huge mystery. This is something we once experienced long before we learned to think with thought. To be more precise, although philosophical questions concern us all, we do not all become philosophers. For various reasons, most people get so caught up in the everyday affairs that their astonishment at the world get pushed into the background. The cruelty into the rabbit's fur is struggled down comfortably. Snuggle down comfortably and stay there for the rest of their lives.
Okay, fine, no problem.
So snuggle means?
Snuggle means, how to explain snuggle?
You had a very comfortable place to.
Yes, basically we snuggle in places where we like to sleep.
Cozy
We
place.
have
Cozy
to
place.
show it to explain it.
No, I don't think that is necessary.
Basically, when you're on a winter morning, when you're sleeping with the blanket, with a thick blanket and your mouth and 2 or 3 pillows very comfortably, you're snuggling in the bed. Okay.
আরামদায়ক
Yes, yes.
ঘুমানো
Hmm. Okay. Let's skip to myths.
Sure, maybe excuse for
Myths.
Let's go to the myths. Okay. Page 20. Next page.
So may I read? The myths. Precarious balance between the force of good and evil. There was no letter for Sophie the next morning. All through the interminable day at school, she was bored still. She took care to be extra nice to Joanna during the breaks. On the way home, they talked about going camping as soon as the woods were dry enough. After that, seems at eternity, she was once again at the mailbox. First, she opened a letter postmarked in Mexico. It was from her father. He wrote about how much he was longing for home and how, for the first time, he had managed to beat the chief officer at chess. Apart from that, he had almost finished the pile of books he had brought abroad with him after his winter leave. And then there it was, a brown envelope with her name on it. Leaving her school bag and the rest of the mail in the house, Sophie ran to the den. She pulled out the new typewritten page and began to read.
Yes.
The mythological world picture. Hello there, Sophie. We have a lot to do. We will get started without delay. By philosophy, we mean the completely new way of thinking that evolved in Greece about 600 years before the birth of Christ. Until that time, people had found answers to all their questions in various religions. These religious explanations were handed down from the generation to generation in the form of myths. A myth is a story about the gods which sets out to explain why life is as it is. Over the millennia, a wide profusion of mythological explanations of philosophical questions spread across the world. The Greek philosophers attempted to prove that these explanations were not to be trusted. In order to understand how the early philosopher thought, he had to understand that what it was like to have a mythological picture of the world. We can take some Nordic myths as examples. There is no need to carry coals to Newcastle. You have probably heard of Thor and his hammer. Before Christianity came to Norway, people believed that Thor rode across the sky in a chariot drawn by 2 goats. When he swung his hammer, it made thunder and lightning. The word thunder is Norwegian Thordon, means Thor rode. In Swedish, the word for thunder is aska, originally asaka. which means God's journey over the heavens. When there is thunder and lightning, there is also rain, which was vital to the Viking farmers. So Thor was worshipped as the god of fertility. The mythological explanation for rain was therefore that Thor was swinging his hammer, and when it rained and corn germinated and thrived in the fields. How the plants of the field could grow and yield crops was not understood, but it was clearly somehow connected with the rain. And since everybody believed that the rain had something to do with Thor, he was one of the most important of the Norse gods. There was another reason why Thor was important, a reason related to the entire world order. The Vikings believed that the inhabited world was an island under constant threat from outside dangers. They called this part of the world Midgard, which means the kingdom in the middle. Within Midgard lay Asgard, the domain of the gods. Outside Midgard was the kingdom of Asgard, the domain of the treacherous giants who resorted to all kinds of cunning tricks to try and destroy the world. Evil monsters like this are often referred to as the forces of chaos, not only in Norse mythology but in almost all other cultures. People found that there was a precarious balance between the force of God and evil.
Good and evil.
Good and evil. One of the ways in which...
Okay, let's stop here for a bit. Do you guys get the idea that is being presented here?
So we watched
Avengers.
Avengers and Thor movies.
Avengers Thor and this Thor is different.
So it's quite similar as Asgard.
I think, sir, Avengers Thor
Midgard as
inspired by
well.
this myth, sir.
Yes, of course it's inspired, but Avengers Thor is not worshipped as the god of fertility.
Me too.
No, sir, but
Sir, myth is magic. Myth is so previous history. A lot of ghost or things of
Have you watched Mythic?
ভূত প্রেতদের যে গল্প মানে এদের ইয়ে তিনি মিথোলজি ইয়েটা
No. So that's not the case. It's not both with me. The issue is that these stories were made in order to have so that people can have explanations for why things happened in the world, why the crops grew, for example. So because peasants are working in the farmlands, right? They're thinking, okay, so why is my crop not doing well? And then they come up with these stories where
God of thunder.
The god of thunder, brings down thunder and with it rain, and this thunder and rain together fertilizes their crops, and then their crops grow, and then they begin to worship these gods. So these are stories. The word myth means story. Okay. So these are just stories that people made in order to have an explanation for how things work in the world. Because we see things, but we don't have an explanation for it. We need to give it some explanation. And that is human nature. So that's what they did.
So our time is about to finish and attendance.
How long?
We were left only 5 minutes.
Really? Time flies so fast.
Sir, we are weekend back, that's why. Only 1
The
hour.
classes
for-
are for only 1 hour.
Fine, no problem. Let's read a bit and then I'll take it then.
One of the ways in which the giants could destroy Midgard was by abducting Frigga, the goddess of fertility. If they could do this, nothing would grow in the fields and the women would no longer have children. So it was vital to guard these giants in check. Thor was a central figure in this battle with the giants. His hammer could do more than make rain. It was a key weapon in the struggle against the dangerous forces of chaos. It gave him almost unlimited power. For example, he could hurl it at the giants and slay them, and he never had a worry about losing it because it always came back to him, just like a boomerang.
Boomerang.
Boomerang. So what is boomerang?
Boomerang.
Boomerang.
It's a kind of weapon.
Thing you throw and comes back.
If you throw it, just comes back because of the shape.
This was the mythological explanation for how the balance of nature was maintained and why there was a constant struggle between good and evil. And this was precisely the kind of explanation that the philosophers rejected.
Okay, the philosophers did not like these kind of explanations.
Superstition.
They viewed it as superstition. But we will find out what the philosophers are thinking. Let's go.
But it was not a question of explanations alone. Mortals could not just sit idly by and wait for the gods to intervene while catastrophes such as drought or plague
Yes.
loomed. They had to act for themselves in the struggle against evil. This they did by performing various religious ceremonies or rites.
In Norse times.
Sorry?
In Norse times, continue.
Okay. The most significant religious ceremony in Norse times was the offering. Making an offering to a god had the effect of increasing that god's power. For example, mortals had to make offerings to the gods to give them the strength of conquer the forces of chaos. They could do this by sacrificing an animal to the god. The offering to Thor was usually a god. Offerings to Odin sometimes took the form of human sacrifices. The myth that is best known in the Nordic countries comes from the Eddic poem, The Lay of Thrym. It tells how Thor, rising from sleep, finds that his hammer is gone. This makes him so angry that his hands tremble and his beard shakes. Accompanied by his henchman Loki, he goes to Frigga to ask if Loki may borrow her wings so that he can fly to Jotunheim, the land of the giants, and find out if they are the ones who have stolen Thor's hand. At Jotunheim, Loki meets Thrym, the king of the giants, who sure enough begins to boast that he has hidden the hammer 7 leagues under the earth, and he adds that the gods will not get the hammer back until Thrym is given Freyja as his bride.
Okay. So let's stop here for today. We will continue from here, okay?
Yes, sir.
Freya as his bride. Okay, why do the Jotunheim want Freya?
Marry her.
Yes, for what? Why does he want to marry her?
Because she is the
Suffering
goddess
because
of-
she is the goddess of fertility.
Yes, she's the goddess of fertility. Why is the goddess of fertility important?
Because the next generation will be next.
More
God
warriors,
of
they can
warrior.
produce more warriors to fight against the gods, and more
Just
crops
more
to
warriors?
live, more crops to live on.
Yes, more food and more children.
Borough
Get away from here. Get away from here. Doesn't look like this, but then-
Ice is here. No problem.
এত ঠান্ডা
Got it.
Sir, present?
Of course.
Turn off the recording.